Hello and welcome to episode 94 of the Mouses Makes Knitting Podcast. My name is Mandy, sometimes known as Mouse. In this basket should be my co-host Miss Poppy, but she is refusing to come out of her cosy bed because winter has returned to Somerset. We've had a beautiful, well, most of the weekend anyway, beautiful week and Easter weekend. And now we are suffering from storms. So it's very, very windy, really quite cold and pouring with rain. Quite disappointing because I did a lot of sitting outside and knitting in the last few days and actually almost got sunburnt. I managed to come in just before. So I have sort of from t-shirt sleeve length down a slightly pink, even more freckly than usual arm. Never mind. I hope everybody had a lovely bank holiday weekend if you're here in the UK. I don't know if Easter is a bank holiday otherwise? No. In other parts of the world, that's a better way of putting it, isn't it? Here we had a double bank holiday, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday and then Monday was the long Easter weekend. At the end of the podcast, if I remember, I will stick in a little bit of footage I took hanging out of Ewan's bedroom window on Good Friday. I explain hanging out of Ewan's bedroom window because the beginning of it is a little bit, and my finger makes a cameo appearance, but it's of the churches in Chard. We have 6 churches in Chard, and Chard is quite a small place, but they all get together and perform what's called the Walk of Witness on Good Friday. So this year it happened to come down our road. It doesn't always, and so I filmed it for you because I'm no longer fit to take part. So if you're interested, I'm going to tag that on at the end for you to have a look at. If not, don't worry. It's only a couple of minutes long. Right, enough waffling. Last week it was the podcast's 2nd anniversary. So shall we just do the draw now straight away? And then I won't forget. And if you don't want to sit through all the rest of the nonsense, you don't have to. So there were 2 yarns up for grabs, it being the 2nd anniversary, and it was a relatively close run thing. Coronation, there were 49 people would have preferred Coronation, and for the Year of Yarn May colourway, 59. So close-ish. So let's do Coronation first, as it comes first in the alphabet. So this very badly skeined up. I have lost the ability to skein yarn neatly. I'm so sorry if you've ordered yarn in the last couple of weeks. I don't know why. I can't make them look nice at the moment. But this is Coronation. Is that better? That's a bit better. So it's, speckled with blue and red. Red, white and blue for our Coronation that's coming up next month. A few people asked, this is going to be going into the shop in the next update, which is next week, the 19th, I believe. That's frightening because that means we're nearly halfway through April already, and I haven't quite come to terms with the fact that it's started yet. Anyway, I'm going to ask Alexa. I've pulled her into the room so that you can hear her a bit better this time. So if you want to mute me so I don't set everybody's off, that's fine. I'm going to do it now. Alexa, Give me a number between 1 and 49.
Here's a number between 1 and 49. It's 19.
19. Nanny loves to craft. Oh, I'm going to highlight you. Nanny loves to craft. I will put it on the screen. If you could email me at mousesmakes@gmail.com with your address, I will get that off to you. I should have said last week and I forgot. I will only announce the winners on the podcast. I won't contact you. I won't ask for anything. If anyone contacts you and says that they're me, they are not. Unless I know you personally and I speak to you on Zoom, you will only be notified via the podcast, and then it's for you to contact me, and I will never ask for anything other than your postal address. Should have said that last week, forgot. Right, the second skein of yarn, again pretty poorly skeined up, but hey, we do our best, was the May colourway. The light is so bad, I don't know how well you're seeing this. This obviously will be going in the shop next week as well. So there were 59 people interested in winning that. So I'm going to ask her again. Alexa, give me a number between 1 and 59.
Here's a number between 1 and 59. It's 41.
41. Carol Curley. You are number 41 on my list. If you would like to email me at mousesmakes@gmail.com, I'll get that off to you as soon as I hear from you. I'd been going to do this very high tech. I'd been going to use the comment picker thingy, but not everyone used the exact word. So I went old school and I just wrote down lists of your names and did it that way. So congratulations to the winners. And we're coming up close to, what are we, 94? Yeah, so in a few weeks it will be the 100th episode, and I think we'll do a little giveaway for that as well. I like doing giveaways. Let me put that back because I'm going to fiddle with it the whole time otherwise. Right then, so it's spring, allegedly. You wouldn't know from looking out the window. And Easter has just happened. And all these things are about new beginnings, aren't they? And new life. And I bet you can tell where this is going. I had a little bit of a cast on frenzy on Easter Sunday. Saturday I came up here and I was looking for a particular skein of yarn, which led to spending the entire afternoon going through my 4-ply stash, organising things into colours that go together in 2s, 3s, 4s, I think there was 1 5, so that when I want to cast on a project I can look in my stash list thingy and go, oh yes, I'll pick that colour combination. Well, that then meant I had to cast on some things, and I had an idea, an idea. I'm going to start with the idea. Sandra Poole, Cherry Heart, Battenberg blanket. I absolutely love it. I love every incarnation of it that I've seen. I desperately want one, but I know myself well enough. I was watching her podcast Saturday morning and I'm going in and out again, aren't I? Her blanket, Sandra's blanket, has 1020 teeny weeny tiny little squares in it. And it's amazing. And I thought about the fact that I would have to do 510 teeny tiny little white squares. And obviously 510 pretty coloured squares, and then sew together or crochet together, either way, all those 1,000+ teeny tiny little squares. And I know myself well enough to know that A, I will never finish making those white squares. It's touch and go whether I finished making the coloured ones, and B, there's no way I'm going to sew them all together. I spent a year making a temperature blanket. It was my own design of squares, and I worked my way round as much as possible. I investigated, I researched any way I could find of not having to sew them together. I sewed them together. It was awful. I had to take it all apart. I crocheted them together. It's kind of okay, but that's how it stayed. So I didn't want to do that, but I did want the blanket very, very much. So I had an idea. This was Sunday afternoon. So what I've started doing, that's just to show me which is the right side, because I'm trying to sew all the ends on the wrong side. It's bag fell off. It's C2C, corner to corner. There's a chance I might make it because I am currently obsessed with C2C blankets. And well, if it has a fault, it's that I've just got started and then I've finished. So I've got to do another one. They are 4 squares to a block, which makes them just under 2 inches, I think. The Battenberg blanket that Sandra Paul made, they were 2 inches. So yeah, it's just under. Sorry, I'm stretching that a bit. Just under 2 inches. Oh, it's very hard to put down. I'm doing the other C2C blanket that's a memory blanket of everything that I've made through this year. But this, I'm just dipping into my rather large box of scraps and pulling them out and using some undyed yarn for my white squares. So the next row will be all white ones, and that's how I'm just going to go about constructing it. I think it's easier this way with them being small squares than doing a strip the width that I want and then the next strip. I think if I do it in diagonal lines, it will be easier to manage. I don't know quite how big I'm going to go. I'd like to go the full 1020 squares. Don't know if I'm going to make it. I've probably got enough wool. I've certainly got enough wool. But it's whether I've got enough patience. Patience is the thing that's in short supply, usually. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I had a bit of a mental block about how to join the squares on. And I had to go back. After having done 3 of them, I'd like to point out, I had to go back to Alex from My Yarny Corner's tutorial because it had fallen out of my brain in between doing one and then the next. But yeah, those tutorials are there and I am making very good use of them. So that was my idea, and that used up quite a lot of Sunday afternoon. Each square, each block uses 1.32 grams with a 3mm hook. I nearly said needle then. So I've got so much yarn that I can even use up the teeny tiny scraps and end up with a huge blanket. So I know it's another blanket. Sometimes you just have to let me get these things out of my system. I'm sorry. My husband will tell you. There's no arguing with me. I've just got to do it until I'm sick of it, and then you'll never see it again. So there's that to look forward to. So that was my kind of Battenberg blanket. That was one of the new things I started. There were 3 others. This was the one that I actually intended to start. And here we go again with the mispronunciation. This is the Sonnenstunden Tea, which means sun hours, apparently, by, oh dear, Evgenia Dupilli. It'll be linked down below. Everything that has a pattern will be linked down below. I cast this on. Please don't laugh. This is the neckline. I know it looks like that is not going to go over my head, but there's 120 stitches here, which is what you need to cast on. I just need to do 7 rows of rib, and rather than fiddle about doing a travelling loop, I thought I'm just going to put it on a 9-inch, and it's much more manageable. So that's what I've done. The yarn I'm using was a Mother's Day gift from Ewan. Well, the Wool Warehouse voucher that I bought it with was from Ewan. And it's Cascade Heritage in Riviera Heather. It's looking very dark there. It's not quite that dark. Let me see if I can do my... I'll bring it over here trick. That's a bit better. Yeah. So this is all in one colour. It's a new pattern I've not tried before. I know, I'm adventurous today. I've been having ideas, I'm trying new patterns. Who is this person? So that was the second thing that I cast on. The third thing, that's on the floor then. The third thing you have seen me make before, and in fact I nearly wore one of my previous incarnations of it today, but it's too darn cold. And I've just realised I didn't say what I am wearing. This, you may recognise, is the Sirdar sweater in Sirdar Jewel Spun Golden Green that I finished a few weeks ago. If I remember, I will put the pattern down below. It's Aran. It's lovely and warm. It's 100% acrylic, so you can just bung it in the washing machine and not worry about it. This is the second one of these I've made. The first one I just made with some cheap yarn from the pound shop. But this one was with the proper stuff for the pattern. Seriously considering knitting another couple. Not necessarily in this pattern, but I just love, well, you know I love stripes. I just love the yarn, the colours that all complement each other, and the fact that it's self-stripes in different widths of stripe and everything. Yeah, there may be some more of this yarn in the future. Right, back to what I was supposed to be talking about. I'm making another, apologies for the black and white picture, Breezeway Tea by Fog Brown Knits. Can you even read that? This pattern has been used so often it's quite crumpled. This is one of the projects that came out of my yarn sorting. I have, hold on, it's stuck. I have a little bit of it to show you. I've done the back of neck shaping. So this is the first yarn that I'm using. I don't know what it is. It's not my own. It was in my box of yarn. It's hand dyed, I'm sure, but it lost its label. So this is the first one. And this is going to be striped because, in common with the lovely Leslie from Not Quite Enough Yarn, I rarely have quite enough yarn, or even anywhere near enough yarn, to finish a whole garment in one colourway unless I either dye it specifically or buy it specifically. So I also fished out, let me show you in the cake, be easier. I fished out this one, which looks remarkably similar. It's got the same colours in, but kind of in different proportions. So that's two. And then also this one, again, these are all hand dyed, not by me, but I don't know who by. They're not showing up terribly well because of the light. This one is kind of pinks and peaches, and there's a little bit of purpley mauvey colour in there, which goes quite nicely juggling with this one. If I can, oh gosh, this is so badly organised. Can you see those? They're tonal, aren't they? And again, it goes with this one because they've all got similar colours in. So I fished out those three, and this one, which is my own, it's not quite as fluorescent as it looks there, it's a bit darker, which I thought could go between just two rows between the colour changes, like so. Are you impressed with my yarn juggling? Look. So literally just two rows between the other three colours each time, just to break it up, but not add another colour in, because it is a solid, so I thought that might work quite well. This was originally being used in, come on brain, Aurora Cabin shawl. So there's not quite a whole ball there because I didn't pull down the whole thing. I kept a little bit because it was pretty. So I'm working my way through the first part of the pattern. This is the front, but there's less fabric on the front at the moment because I've done the short row shaping. I'm just working out how wide I want my stripes to be, and cursing myself that I didn't think to do the cast on and the garter edge in the solid yarn rather than in the variegated, because that might have looked nicer, but I'm not pulling it down and starting again, so I'll have to live with that one time. And this is living, I'm sure that had a packet just now. Oh, there it is. This is living in my bag, my beautiful bag from Paula, Stitched by Mrs. D. Right, I'm going to put this away. Actually, I should put everything on the floor so I remember to put in progress markers, shouldn't I? Yes, this is the fourth thing. Sorry, I lost count. This is the fourth thing. Well, I feel like I need to apologise, but I've done it again. It's another rocket tea. I don't know what to tell you. It's an obsession. You know that saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Well, so this one is going to be slightly different from its other incarnations. Again, I haven't got a great deal. Let me just poke that back in there a minute. I haven't got a great deal knit. I think I've got about 16 rows. This is another colourway that will be going into the shop in May. I'm just trying to figure out how to show it to you. I'll put that behind it. Oh yeah, that's a bit better. This is Peach Parfait. And I'm using 2 skeins of that. And I'm going to stripe it, of course I am, with this orange, which is a lovely kind of muted orange, but it's a variegated. And you can't see the speckles, so we don't know whether that goes well together or not, because nobody can see. That's a bit better. And I expect you want to know what this yarn is, and so do I, but I have forgotten to get the other 50 gram out. So, 2 seconds. Sorry about that. I only skeined up one of the 2 50 grams because I hate caking up yarn. Hate it with a passion. I think I hate it more than sewing up, and that's saying something. So these were a gift from my lovely friend Audrey, and it's the Cotswold Wool Company, and the yarn is, oh, it doesn't seem to have a name. It doesn't have a name. That's sad. But it's a 4-ply stroke sport. No, there's definitely no name on there. Anyway, you can see what colour it is. It's kind of a, again, everything's a bit glowy today. It's not glowy. But I thought those two looked so nice together. So it's going to have a wider stripe of the Peach Parfait and then a stripe half the width of this, because I've only got 100 grams of this and I've got 200 grams of the other, with the option of dyeing up more if I need it. So yeah, that's that one. I'm probably getting close to changing to this yarn. I'll have a count up of rows later. So that's all my new cast-ons. And there's not a shawl among them. There is a blanket, but there's no shawl, and I hope you're proud of me, even though I have cast on 2 things that I've made before. But that's how I roll. You're used to it. Right, I've got a couple of things I'm going to show. That's 4, but there's only 3. Pardon me. I've got 3 things that I'm going to do a quick whip update on. Neither of my shawls, because there's not, I mean there is progress, but there's not like interesting progress. This I wasn't going to show you. These are my socks. But I wanted to update you on a couple of things I mentioned last week. I think it was last week. So the socks are Rhinebeck Roomies by Kay Litton, Crazy Sock Lady. The yarn is Easter Pastels by Denise at Dear Designs. Where is the little tag? I know it's in there. I know it is because I put it in there. This is not a big bag and I can't find it. Never mind, take my word for it. It might be nap time. It is Easter Pastels by Denise at Dear Designs. And when I showed them to you last week, I'm sure it was last week, I said that I was waiting to see what the yarn did. I thought it was going to flash, and it did. So I chose a pattern to disrupt the flashing, and I'd chosen Rhinebeck Roomies because now, rather than flashing, it's striping. I don't know how it works. I mean, obviously it works because the stitches use up a different amount of yarn. But I now have my favourite thing, which is a stripy sock, rather than my not so favourite thing, which is a sock that flashes. So, not really showing it to you from the point of look how much progress I've made, but more from the point of if you don't like flashing and you've got a yarn that's doing it, try the Rhinebeck Roomies pattern or similar, because it just breaks it up. I must also show you this has become my sock bag. This is my Star Trek bag from Amelia at Amelia X Joy, and I've put on it my Star Trek 50 badge and my Starfleet medical badge because I am a sad middle-aged woman who thinks she's a teenage boy. And I've also made, if I can get it to lay properly, I don't know if you can see it, hang on. I'm going to take it off because I'm going to move it anyway, so I might as well take it off. Can you see that? On Etsy I found a lady who sells charms, and she had Star Trek charms. And so I got a Starfleet medical badge to make a stitch marker with, and inside the bag we have a stripy cat, because Data has a stripy cat that he calls Spot. He's learning humour and irony. I didn't make that one. I have a tiny, it's hanging backwards, Enterprise, again from the same charm lady, that I made into a progress keeper. And then I'm so sad, I'm sorry. I sorted through my light bulb markers and fished out a load of yellow and blue and red and black, because they're Starfleet uniform colours, to go in my bag. And while I'm on the subject, bear with me a second. That was nearly a disaster, because I trod on the thing that I knocked on the floor a little while ago, and it was a very slippery needle packet, and I nearly went flying. So that was nearly the end of the podcast, possibly forever. Yes, I told you that I had ordered some a couple more bags from Amelia at Amelia X Joy. This is my Star Wars one, and I've done a similar thing. So in here there is a Boba Fett helmet, a Stormtrooper helmet, and I have organised again my light bulb markers, and I've taken out blue ones, black ones for Darth Vader, blue and white for R2-D2, and gold ones for C3PO, and they live now in and the Star Wars bag. This is almost Confessions of a Middle-Aged Lady. And while I was up, I got the card from the lady that I bought the charms. She's on Etsy. I'll try and remember and link it below. It's called the Charm Bracelet. She does all sorts of things. They do not come as progress markers or stitch markers. They come as charms to go on a bracelet or a necklace or whatever. So if you want them, as I have done, you will have to do it yourself. The other bag, while I'm on the subject, that I got from Amelia was this one. And this has my Musselburgh in. I'm not going to show you the progress on that. I did some progress. I did some knitting on it while I was sat. You might have seen on Instagram while I was sat out in the sunshine when we went out last Tuesday. I sat knitting in the pub garden waiting for our food. It was a lovely day. It was a really, really lovely day. It was warm enough to sit outside. The wind was a bit nippy, but it was beautiful. And there was a table of ladies quite close to us. And one of them was afraid of seagulls, and there were a lot of seagulls. And they kept coming because the ladies had finished eating, so they were coming for the plates. And one of them kept letting out these blood-curdling screams like she was in some kind of horror film. And the next thing we knew, she was sat underneath the table. And I was thinking, I wonder if we've made the wrong choice sitting outside to eat. But it was such a nice day, it seemed a shame to sit inside in the gloom and miss it, especially for those of us who don't see the outside very often. Anyway, that was a big old tangent. Where was I? What was I doing? I'd shown you my socks. That's right. The other thing, the other whip that I have to show you. I've done some work. I've forced myself. I have to admit, it has become a bit of a... whatever the opposite of a... Now that word's gone out of my head. Oh my gosh, this is bad. Reset. I've been doing some work on this. I'm not enjoying it very much anymore, but I'm nearly finished. It's the Advent Wrap by Iris Makes. I started it beginning of December with my Advent from Amanda at Little Lycac, and I got overwhelmed with stuff that I was knitting, and I put it aside on the 12th of December, picked it up again beginning of the last month, I think so. And I had been working, because it's knitting two big rectangles essentially that you seam together to make like a waistcoat. I had been working on the two sides concurrently. I was just getting really tired. There are many, many, many stitches, and you have to do one row on one and then one row on the other. I'd had enough, basically. So I stopped doing them concurrently, and I thought I'm going to concentrate on one until I've finished it, and then I'm going to work on the other one until I've finished that. Then I can just seam them all up. So that's what I did. So I finished the first side. That's where I was last time you saw it. And that's where the second side is still. I've got all of this to do on the second side. So I've used all the colours. I have cast off half the stitches to make the front. Then you carry on for a bit in moss stitch, which gives you the back of half the back of the neck. And then when I've done the same with the other side, it's a 3 needle bind off for the back to make the centre back seam. So I don't know how well this is going to work. Let me try. So So it will be, obviously there's still a needle attached because those stitches need to remain live. It will be like this. It won't have a needle poking out of it, obviously. Oh, go away. Yeah, so that essentially is it. So it will come down to about there. I've got to seam up the side, leaving room for an armhole, and then this is kind of I'm trying to show you. I don't know if standing up is going to help. I'll try. Hang on. I'll try and stand up without knocking you off. Oh, I made it. But I'm far too close. Right, hang on a minute. So professional. Been doing this 2 years, you know. Yes. I'm very experienced. Very experienced, very professional. Yeah, so it's going to be about that long. I'm hoping to block it out to be a little bit longer. So I would like it kind of low hip. Whereas at the moment it's, I suppose it's the same length as my jumper. It's not too bad. But yeah. So that's half of it. I've got, pardon the extreme close-up of my chest. I've got one of those cardigan clips that's like 2 crocodile clips with, I'm sorry to say, 3 skulls in between, that I can use to hold it closed if I want it closed. Or I've got some things that you sew, they're metal, you sew one onto one side and one onto the other side, and then they kind of hook together. I could put those on it. I don't know. Obviously the cardigan clip is the easiest option because you just put it on if you want it and you don't if you don't. So this is close to being finished, but this last bit is going to be a bit of a trial. I cannot lie. I went into it all full of enthusiasm, and I think it's because I was doing 2 at the same time. It just became so tedious. I've pulled a thread now, look at that. Wiggle it back in. Which is a shame. But yeah. And I had thought the other day, I was looking at it and I thought, oh, that'd make a really nice blanket pattern. If you did it in DK, larger size needle, obviously, it's already twice that wide. That'd be a nice little blanket. And it would. But I don't know if I can stand, certainly not in the immediate future, to knit this wretched flower stitch again. I don't know what's worse, that or the... No, it is definitely that. Never mind. It's that. It's that flower stitch. Anyway, I've finished moaning about that now. And I'm not going to promise to have it finished for next week because now I've got new cast-ons. We all know I'm going to get distracted and excited by new shiny things. And also, I wanted this to wear over a t-shirt and jeans, or I've got some kind of linen dresses. I've got one that's a pale pink and I've got one that's a silvery grey. I thought that looked really nice over these. Yeah, I can't see I'm going to be wearing them anytime soon. So there's no urgency to finish this at the moment. Yeah. So I'm not going to promise this is going to be finished next week. I hope to have it finished by the end of the month. I feel like I want to cast on my next Stephen West Marathon shawl, which is the slumber shawl, which is scheduled for the 1st of May. I feel like I want to cast that on, but really, I've got so much. I've got even more now on the needles that I just need to wait for the 1st of May. That like the Vertices Unite, which was the March cast on, should be a fairly quick knit, and then I've got plenty of time to clear some needles before the next one, which will be a Slipstravaganza cast on the 1st of July. So I have it all planned. But then, as I said, I did go through all my yarn and put together many combinations of yarn. So yeah, there could be more rocket teas and so on. I'm in that kind of a mood. I don't know whether I want to knit shawls. I know I want to knit blankets, but I don't know whether I want to knit shawls or teas. Common sense says get more wear out of a tea, because I don't wear my shawls as much as I should, and that is kind of a resolution I've made, not a New Year's one, just a I should do this. Yeah, I don't know why I'm waffling on. You don't need to know all of this. You don't need to know the inner workings or otherwise of my psyche. Let's face it, I just get into a mood to knit something and I knit it. I don't know why I'm trying to analyse it. I also remember that I said last year, oh, I've overwhelmed myself with the amount of projects that I've got on the needles. I'm not going to do that again this year. I seem to have forgotten that. And the shelf of shame has remained untouched for several weeks. So I did get my triangulum blanket out and look at that at the weekend. But admittedly, I got it out and looked at it and thought, I wonder if it's big enough that I could finish it yet. And the answer is no. So I'm going to have to pick that up again. But while I was at it, I looked, because the original plan, the original plan had been to knit a triangle a day for the whole of 2022 instead of doing a temperature blanket. Not linked to the temperature, just whatever colour I was going to do. And I ran out of steam with that on the 20th of May. So I've made a note in my diary to pick it up again on the 21st of May this year and try and at least finish out a year. So it's got 365 little triangles. I will love it if I could just get doing it. I know. But yes, so that's what's been going on with me. Yeah, that's enough of that nonsense. So I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to say I'll see you next week. I'm going to stick on the video that I told you about. And if the ladies who won could email me, I will get that off to you probably on Monday. I have some orders to do and post out on Monday. And I like to give the postman a happy start to his week by coming to see me. So, that's all the nonsense for today. And I will see you next week. Until I do, happy knitting. Hope your weather is nicer than mine. Bye guys.